比亚迪销售总说没有现车，提车要等至少3个月。
BYD sales reps always say there are no cars in stock and it will take at least 3 months to get one. But here I am, in an unfinished building, discovering a large stockpile of BYD cars. This building has been abandoned for over 2 years and is now being used as a warehouse, filled with a large number of in-stock BYD vehicles. Some of the cars have been sitting here so long that dust has gathered on them. Let's take a look at the main models. There aren't many cars on the first floor, but to my surprise, there's a BYD Tan. As we go upstairs, we find what seems to be BYD's main storage area. First, there are a lot of Qing EVs, which are mainly targeted at the ride-hailing market. The most abundant models are the Qing Plus and Song Plus. With so many cars here, it's clear that BYD's production focus is still on these two models. Overall, most of these cars are covered in a thick layer of dust, clearly not recently parked.
Here's BYD's Ocean. Look at all these BYD cars. There are so many of these little BYDs, the Qin EV and Qin Plus. And look, there are even more behind. This is just one of BYD's garages. Many people who buy BYD cars have to wait a month, 2 months, even 3 months to get theirs. But why are there so many BYD cars here gathering dust? I don't get it. These are hot-selling models, and they come in all sorts of colors. There's so many cars. You can't help but wonder, is BYD really selling well or not? If they're selling well, why are there so many cars just sitting here? If sales are bad, why is it still a 3-month wait to buy one online? It's so strange. Some people have referred to this as the Evergrande model. In the past, certain car companies would first register new cars in China, benefiting from local subsidies. They would then export these zero-mileage second-hand cars overseas, effectively making extra profit. But recently, China has begun to restrict, in some cases, halt second-hand car exports. On February 2nd, new data revealed that BYD's electric vehicle sales in January were around 210,000 units, a 30% year-on-year decrease. This marks one of the largest drops in recent years, and the 5th consecutive month of decline. More importantly, this decline isn't limited to one product, as nearly all of BYD's products have been affected. BYD's passenger car sales totaled around 205,500 units, a 30.7% drop compared to last year. Battery electric vehicles, BEVs, sold about 83,200 units, down 33.6%, while plug-in hybrid vehicles, PHEVs, totaled about 122,300 units, down 28.5%. My goodness, 2026 has started, and the car industry has hit rock bottom. January sales plummeted 40% month over month. Electric vehicles dropped by a staggering 67%. Many top sellers didn't even sell a few cars this month. It looks like the reduction in subsidies and the return of the purchase tax had a big impact. According to BYD's latest announcement, in January 2026, BYD's electric vehicle sales totaled about 210,000 units, a year-on-year drop of over 30%. Keep in mind, BYD is a dominant player in the domestic electric vehicle market. Some might ask, is it because January is close to the Chinese New Year and there are fewer working days, so the sales drop is just temporary? That could be a factor affecting short-term performance. But what's more concerning is that with a price war still raging and demand weakening, even the leading companies are seeing clear year-on-year declines. This indicates that the industry pressure is more than just a seasonal fluctuation. In other words, the real tough times for electric vehicles may just be the beginning. In an unexpected move, following this year's sales drop, BYD has reportedly asked the US government for financial assistance. On February 10th, it was reported that BYD, through its 4 U.S. subsidiaries, filed a lawsuit against the U.S. government in the U.S. International Trade Court. BYD is seeking a refund for tariffs and interest paid since April 2025, and it's challenging the legality of these tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA. BYD argues that the IEEPA does not give the president clear authority to impose tariffs or border taxes, meaning the tariffs should be invalid. This lawsuit was not a sudden decision. Public records show that BYD had already submitted its legal documents on the 26th of last month. BYD explains it had to file separately to secure its eligibility and channels for the refund to prevent future issues with compensation. In the US, requesting a tariff refund involves legal action. BYD's statement about filing separately means securing its position by following the correct procedures, submitting claims on time, appealing when necessary, and taking the case to court if needed. BYD chose this timing to act quickly, hoping to finalize its legal process and refund channels before the U.S. Supreme Court rules on IEEPA's use for tariffs. Ultimately, the goal is clear: to recover as much of the tariffs and interest paid since April 2025 as possible. Meanwhile, BYD is also facing controversy at home over what some see as indirect pay cuts. On February 5th, workers at BYD's high-voltage electrical factory in Xi'an, Shaanxi, went on strike, protesting the company's decision to cut piece rate bonuses. Workers reported that under continued pressure, the bonuses had dropped from about 2,400 yuan per month to only 300 to 600 yuan. As a result, many workers' salaries, after deductions for social insurance and housing funds, are now less than 2,000 yuan a month, effectively amounting to a disguised pay cut. The protest is still ongoing. Video footage shows large groups of workers gathered inside the factory, while a security guard appears to engage in a heated argument with several employees. The atmosphere is tense, and order has been briefly disrupted. One BYD employee said, "In China, a monthly salary of less than 2,000 yuan after deductions makes it impossible to support a family. This issue extends beyond BYD alone. The entire Chinese electric vehicle market is facing difficulties."
新能源汽车真的卖不动了，厂家都爆库了。
Electric vehicles are really getting harder to sell. Manufacturers are overloaded with inventory, channels are shrinking, and dealers are even hesitant to stock cars. Brands like Chery's Little Ant, Leap Motors C703, Neza, and WM are all struggling to sell. In the end, all these cars are stuck in inventory. In the past, at the start of each month, new energy car companies would eagerly release their delivery figures. However, January 2026 saw a notably quiet month. The few companies that did release their numbers showed a significant month-on-month decline. For instance, HIMA delivered 57,915 cars in January, down by more than 30,000 from 89,611 in December. Xiaomi delivered over 39,000 units, a drop of about 11,000 compared to December's 50,000. Li Auto delivered 27,668 cars, down from 44,246 cars in December, a decrease of about 17,000. Some observers believe that while companies like BYD still report high delivery numbers, they may largely reflect orders built up in previous months, with new orders failing to meet expectations. Companies with fewer orders, to cushion the blow, likely saw even worse figures in January, leading them to delay reporting. The key concern now is that, with a slowdown in January and the upcoming Chinese New Year in February, demand may continue to decrease, worsening the situation. One observer, known as Scrap Car Evaluator Xiao Sun, commented,
我的天哪，新能源暴跌60%，五月份的销量啊。
My goodness, January sales were really bad. Electric vehicles dropped sharply, and even gasoline cars saw heavy declines. Simply put, without policy support, real consumer power is exposed. People don't have much to spend, so they're more cautious about buying cars. Even Tesla has started offering extreme incentives, 7-year low interest rates and 5-year no interest financing. We rarely see that before. Back then, you even had to pay extra just to get a car. What does this show? It means industry demand isn't strong enough, so companies are relying on price cuts and financial plans to push sales. Whether it's new energy or gasoline cars, whether it's BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, or Honda, the days of just selling on brand alone are over. If you don't compete, you won't sell. The real problem now is the inventory pressure. Cars from last year still haven't sold, and there are a lot of zero-mileage second-hand cars flooding the market, stealing customers who would have bought new cars. Clearing inventory isn't something that can be done in a week or two. It often takes 3 to 5 months. During this time, forest stores can only keep fighting price wars, competing on financing, and offering subsidies. The competition will only get tougher. So the key thing to watch is, will the new national standards and policies, effective July 1st, 2026, bring about clear changes or demand boosts? If they do, the market might shift. If not, the industry will likely continue struggling with price cuts, internal competition, and clearing inventory. Another observer, Qi Ge, pointed out that salespeople are the most affected in this situation.
突然一夜之间，大家就都不买车了。
Suddenly, it feels like no one's buying cars anymore. The car industry has hit a freezing point at the start of 2026, almost like a turning point. Many people in sales are already considering switching careers, but the real question is, has car ownership suddenly reached its limit? If it has, why are so many people shifting in such a short time? The situation is more likely like this. At the end of December, everyone was scrambling to push sales and deliver cars, but once January came, demand clearly cooled, and stores became quiet. Sometimes I wonder, what's really happening? Did consumers suddenly feel that buying a car isn't so urgent, or have changes in policy, subsidies, financial plans, and pricing made people more cautious and willing to wait? No matter the reason, the reality is clear. Cars are harder to sell, and many people in the industry are already looking at alternatives. But the difficulties don't just lie with the sales consultants. salespeople at least have the option to stop and switch careers. The real pressure falls on the owners who invested in storefronts, inventory, and facilities. They've sunk millions, sometimes tens of millions, into physical assets that can't be quickly liquidated. If the market reverses, their losses could be substantial. Some thought direct sales from manufacturers would ease the pressure and lower prices, but in reality, it's often the opposite. Once manufacturers are stuck with unsold stock, they have no room for price negotiation because everyone is stuck with the same price. Consumers end up more hesitant and unwilling to buy. Furthermore, BYD's export data adds to market concerns. Latest data show that BYD's electric vehicle exports in January 2026 increased by 51.5% year-on-year to 100,482 units, but fell 24.6% month-on-month. Previously, it was believed that BYD could rely on overseas growth to offset domestic competition and demand fluctuations. However, the current situation suggests this may not be feasible. Tariffs and barriers are rising against China's exports of electric vehicles, especially BEVs, decreasing export certainty and raising concerns about whether overseas growth can continue. For example, the European Union already imposes a 10% tariff on imported vehicles and now has added an anti-subsidy tariff on Chinese-made BEVs, with rates varying by car maker. BYD is set to face a tariff of about 17%, while SAIC faces even higher rates. The US has raised tariffs on Chinese electric cars to a 100% blocking rate, and even countries like Turkey have added extra tariffs on imports from China. The main reason for the decline in electric vehicle sales is a combination of year-end stockpiling, policy changes, and tightening conditions. Bloomberg and Lianhe Zhaobao consider January's drop understandable, though still larger than expected. Reuters points to increased competition, weak demand, and reduced subsidies. This isn't a typical off-season, but rather a season affected by oversupply, tightening, and price wars, making the impact more severe. On the policy and pricing front, subsidies are still in place, but the approach has changed. Trade-in for new continues, but subsidies are now linked to car prices, meaning low-priced electric vehicles may receive less support. The revised 2026 policy may also require electric vehicle buyers to pay around 5% in purchase tax. The key issue is that BYD's mid to low-end models, Dynasty, Ocean, make up about 90% of its sales. The shift from fixed subsidies to price-based subsidies weakens its core sales advantage. After the year-end rush, the market isn't just concerned about whether January's drop is an anomaly, but whether demand will recover quickly or continue to weaken over the long term. The third and most critical factor is that the market concern isn't just slightly declining sales, but a shift in the industry's outlook. The focus has changed from high growth to survival and defense. For car companies, the main concern isn't declining sales, but the onset of what is referred to as an accounting era. When sales experience a consistent decline, investors will reassess a company's ability to maintain rapid growth. If growth slows, the high valuations that were previously supported by expectations of future growth will diminish. It's also important to note that the decline isn't just in stock prices. The electric vehicle industry is quietly undergoing a reshuffle. Recent data shows Geely's sales in January were about 270,000 units, higher than BYD's 210,000. Geely was, quote, the only company to achieve both month-over-month and year-over-year growth, prompting the market to reassess the competitive landscape. Geely's success comes from two main areas. First, its Zeekr brand, which delivered 23,900 units in January, a 99.7% increase year-over-year. Second, its Galaxy brand, which delivered around 83,000 units in January, is seen as a core growth driver for Geely's electric vehicles. The key point is that, while Geely is growing its electric vehicle sales, it also maintains strong sales of gasoline-powered vehicles, which makes it more resilient during seasonal downturns. Meanwhile, there's a reshuffling happening within the electric vehicle sector. NIO, XPeng, and Li Auto were once considered the top three, but this status is now being challenged. Xiaomi and Leapmotor delivered about 39,000 and 32,059 units respectively in January, ranking higher than some other brands. Hema delivered 57,915 units, but since it covers multiple brands, including Aito, Luxeed, Stelato, and Maxtro, its numbers aren't directly comparable to single-brand figures. The significance of Geely taking over is that it sends a message. When penetration rates reach near peak levels and demand weakens, relying solely on electrification is no longer a distinct advantage. Instead, traditional car makers with existing gasoline vehicle platforms, who can push both new energy and high-end vehicles, are better positioned to find opportunities and regain growth and market share. Interestingly, this shift in the market has also affected the daily operations of car companies. Leapmotor, a Chinese electric vehicle brand, recently held its annual meeting for its automotive electronics division in Huzhou. Some employees criticized the event for being poorly organized. No lunch was provided. Human resources suggested employees bring their own food. There weren't enough restrooms. Hot water wasn't available, and the venue lacked air conditioning with subpar sound quality. Due to rain, some activities were held in temporary outdoor tents, leading to a poor experience. Despite this, Leapmotor's sales targets remain ambitious. The company aims to reach nearly 600,000 units in 2025, a 103% year-over-year increase. For 2026, its target is 1 million units, making it the first electric vehicle company to openly set a 1 million unit target during its intense price war. In response to the criticisms about the annual meeting, Leapmotor clarified that while lunch wasn't provided, the dinner was plentiful and prizes were substantial, including Bluetooth mice, electric toothbrushes, wristbands, wireless headphones, blow dryers, coffee machines, multifunctional pots, DJI gimbal cameras, and 20 iPhone 17s. Leapmotor's founder and chairman, Zhu Jiangming, also addressed the complaints in an internal letter, acknowledging that the annual meeting left some employees with a bad experience. He said improvements will be made for future events and emphasized that the company is still growing rapidly, aiming to enhance both employees and user experience. Another sign of intense competition is an interesting development involving Xiaomi. On the evening of February 2nd, Xiaomi executive Pan Zhutang publicly advertised cars on his social media, stating that he had switched careers and invited friends and family to buy cars through him in hopes of becoming the top seller. In his post, Pan Zhutang recommended Xiaomi's cars, specifically highlighting how the SU7 and YU7 perform within their price ranges. He emphasized product quality and resale value, while also sharing feedback from industry experts and personal experiences from friends and family. Public records show that Pan Zhutang is currently Xiaomi's chief strategist, secretary general of the Business Management Committee, and a member of the Brand Committee. He has long been responsible for the company's strategic planning, business management, and brand development. It's unusual for core management to directly engage in frontline sales. However, his decision to publicly promote car sales on social media shows just how intense the competition in the car market has become. Selling cars has become the most immediate and essential task for every company. The focus is now on channels, conversion rates, and execution, which has led to a tough battle in the market.